Hi, my name is Morgan, and I'm a member of Ravel's design team. I want to talk about the overarching design philosophy behind Ravel and introduce you to some of the basics of the game. First and foremost, Ravel is a game about collective storytelling. Sure, there are skills to acquire, rare equipment to find, strange monsters to battle, all the things we know and love about video games, but Ravel is not a video game at its core. At its core, Ravel is a role-playing game, much like Dungeons & Dragons or other similar games that focus on group storytelling, outside-the-box problem-solving, and a flexible play experience, either in person or remote. We love role-playing games, but we've always found their potential to be a little out of reach. They can take hours to set up, days to prepare, and at least one person in the group really needs to dedicate their time for a successful campaign. And even if your whole group is committed, role-playing itself is hard. Experienced actors may make it look easy, but having unlimited story options can feel paralyzing in practice. So rather than just another map-making tool, we set out to make a whole new, fully featured game that tackles these hurdles from the ground up. Ravel's procedural engine eliminates the need for any and all prep work, letting players focus on responding to what the game generates for them, but also allowing them to change anything they want if it is no longer serving their story. Save time and simplify combat with 3 AI behaviors, or easily adjust any calculated odds to fit the context of your story. In Ravel, you never have to do any math on the fly. The game takes care of all of it for you. We've also taken inspiration from modern-day party games, adding suggestive mechanics that can help players roleplay or give their characters more depth. You are, of course, free to make everything from scratch if you want. If you have an idea and want to start with a blank slate, go for it. But we know that a blank slate can be daunting for a lot of people, including ourselves, and it's often much easier to start with something and then edit it to your liking. So let's talk about Ravel's procedural generation. As designers, we want to make sure that anything the game generates is detailed enough to spark storytelling ideas, but not so detailed that it doesn't leave room for player improv. So when you start a new campaign in Ravel, an entire world is generated for you, complete with kingdoms, biomes, capital cities, roads, rivers, and a name. Don't like what you see? Just roll again. Now let's see how easy it is to adjust it how we want. Adding, removing, or changing the land is a simple paintbrush tool. And changing the name of the generated cities is that easy. So now I have my world, but I still don't know how to start my story. Let's generate a new map and see what ideas it sparks. As you can see, I have many choices for the type of map I want to make, or I could just make a custom map by setting my own parameters. We don't need anything too fancy. How about a classic tavern start for this campaign? Let's see what we get. So because we placed our map inside the desert biome and the Meridian Kingdom, we're going to get a tileset and flora unique to that combination. Placing a map elsewhere would get us many different varieties of tilesets and flora. The Meridians are an otter-like people unique to the world of Ravel, whose buildings incorporate the wreckage of old ships. Okay, it looks like the tavern has generated with the name The Darkened Root. Well, that makes me think that perhaps this tavern, or maybe this part of the world, is hiding something sinister or dark? Let's look at who's inside. The bartender is a dwarf named Hugs Baldlob. Doesn't sound like a very dark or sinister name to me. Maybe this tavern is actually a bastion of light within a dark area? It also looks like he's got some decent equipment in the back room here. Maybe Hugs is supplying a secret army standing against the darkness? As you can see, with just a few random elements and no work on my part, I have some potential ideas for where my story can go. On top of all that initial procgen are the decisions that the players are making, which is getting fed back into the procgen systems. For example, you may create a town in one session and then discover NPCs who are from that town in later sessions. Or perhaps now that we've met Hugs Baldlob, we'll find equipment with the initials HB engraved on it. The procgen in Ravel isn't static, it is always reacting to the story you are telling. The last thing I want to talk about is flexibility, and how easy it is to take control of a Ravel campaign and thus keep your story represented as accurately as possible. At any point during play, the Raveler, who is the player running the game, can pause and make any amount of changes they see fit to the map, objects, terrain, NPCs, monsters, you name it. Let's look at an example of outside-the-box play that this facilitates. Here you see that the party has just finished up at the darkened route and are deciding where to go next. Since I'm the Raveler, I am hoping that they decide to go to this haunted swamp that Hugs suggested they visit in order to calm the vengeful spirits of those that died in battle there. But, as anyone who has ever run any tabletop game knows, your players don't always do what you want them to do. In the case of my party here, they became enamored with an NPC standing outside the darkened route named Snick's Mountain Grave. Since Snicks was a fully formed NPC with stats, relationships, a job, there was plenty to pull from when the party decided to talk to him. He mentioned to the party that he lives in a secluded house in the woods, and despite the hints I tried to drop about going to the haunted swamp, the party unanimously decided to go visit Snicks at his home. So now what? This is a scenario that could send a game master into a panic in other games. But in Ravel, you pick a spot for his house and you generate a map just like that. Within seconds, I've got a fully detailed map to work with. Now all I have to do is bring in Snicks from my story box and voila. We have plenty to work with. Maybe Snicks was just finishing up a tune at his piano when the party arrived. Here, let's play something from our music menu. Maybe the magic scroll that generated into his desk is one that he's been keeping secret for some reason. Maybe this imp hanging around back is actually a spy for the dark forces in the area. With Ravel, there are no wrong answers. Wherever your story goes, Ravel gives you the tools to adjust and continue on with virtually no work. The same thing applies to everything else in Ravel. Any new story element is just a random roll away, leaving you with ultimate control to take what you want and leave the rest. In being both easy to learn while still keeping the versatility of a traditional role-playing game, we believe Ravel hits on the best of both worlds and gives players all the fun of role-playing without any of the pain. Be sure to look out for future videos detailing more about how Ravel works, including an entire new mode where everyone takes turns being the Raveler and controlling the story. Thanks for watching!